recently took quite a long hiatus from reselling and came back, but we had such a big leg up when we came back. It made us think about all the things we wish we knew when we started reselling that we know now that made this transition back so much easier.
Yeah, there's so much that goes into deciding to resell, whether it's part-time or full-time, as a hobby or as a business. And starting from scratch can be very intimidating. So we're going to go over the things that are going to be super helpful for people that are getting back into it or just starting reselling.
Yeah. So we're going to be 10 things, starting off with number one, which is so important. And I think we don't talk about it enough, but is sharing your items. So Poshmark does not have the wonderful algorithm like eBay and Mercari and other platforms do, where your item just pulls up if somebody looks for it. One of the things Poshmark looks for is if you've recently shared the item. And there is a few different ways you can share items on Poshmark. You can manually share your items one by one, which I have almost 1,000 items. What do you think? Should I try manually?
Well, you didn't have a choice before they had the bulk
This is
tool.
true.
So
For a long time, this was the way it was. But on each individual listing, you can click on that button and you can do that manually one by one. If you have a bit more items and you want to do it in bulk, you can go up to the wrench tool on the top right corner of your closet and you can bulk share your items. The tricky part about this is you have to scroll all the way down to the page until all your items are loaded before you can hit share all. Otherwise, it'll only share, I think, 20 items. Or if you have quite a bit of items, if you think the investment is worth it, you can get a third-party tool. There are multiple different options out there, but you can have them share your closet. I will note as a disclaimer, because our comments are about to get filled with it, this is against Poshmark TOS. As far as I know, it still is. I haven't read it recently, but
there's no way it's not going to ever be included. They're always going to have third party is prohibited because
right. It
obviously.
it is. However, most larger resellers do use a third-party tool. It's just cost efficient, and really, I don't think anyone believes Poshmark will shut people down for it. But I do want to let you know that it is a risk, because we want to make sure that we're fully transparent about that. So those are your three options, but it's really important that you share, and you share often. Otherwise, your items are basically getting hidden.
It is important to note on Poshmark that you want to share up to a certain level. Otherwise, you wind up in Posh jail. And I think,
It's share jail.
yeah, share jail. I did this to you accidentally when you had me sharing at the very, very beginning. I
Yes, you
went too
did.
fast manually sharing and I put you in a timeout.
Yes. So there's two ways that this can happen. And again, this is kind of unconfirmed because Poshmark's not really going to tell you how this happens, although they will confirm you are in share jail if you ask them when it happens to you. However, there are two ways. One is going too fast, so they think you're a bot and they don't enjoy that. So there are captures you're supposed to clear, but still, oftentimes they just say, nope, too fast, shut down. That's what happened to him. Or you hit over a limit. Now, I think that the general consensus in the community is that the limit is about 10,000 per day. You guys can let me know if you've noticed a different number. We have about 1,000 items, so I share approximately 6 to 8 times per day, depending on my day, but totally up to you guys what you think is comfortable, but often is important. If you share it once a day, that's good, but more is better.
Yes. I think that's fundamentally one of the most important parts of being successful on Poshmark is making sure that your items are active. Next is my specialty. So shipping supplies. If you are going to be doing this as either a hobby seller or a business, the cost out of your pocket is very important. The US Postal Service is fantastic. 10 out of 10. They are amazing. Poshmark. It is Poshmark is the tightest tied to the USPS. You can get any priority package from the Postal Service for free delivered to your house within reason. And when I say within reason, do not buy 700 large boxes when you are just starting and have no intention of actually using them, so that you get banned off of the USPS website and then have your husband be required to do all the shipping supplies from there.
Hypothetically.
Ask me how I know.
Yeah, maybe we might have photographic evidence of something happening.
Yeah, we have photographic evidence of one of us making a mistake.
It's possible. And it's possible that my USPS account is now banned and we have to use his account. Oh, this is possible this has happened. So don't do that, but do take his advice and go on to the USPS website and order shipping supplies from them because it is completely free to use. You can get mailers, poly mailers, Tyvek is what we use. You can get any type of box you want. I think the most common that we use are the shoe boxes.
The shoe boxes are clutch. It's between for me, it's those or the we are still getting through the backlog of the large boxes that my wife ordered when we started. We have probably 20 more to go at this point.
We use those mostly for bundles, which we'll talk
Yeah,
about a little bit later. But you can use any priority. You can use flat rate. You can use
padded.
padded. Yeah, any kind of priority mailer you can use for Poshmark. So make sure you're ordering them. Make sure you use that because it is more money in your pocket if you don't have to buy these supplies.
And kind of conspiratorially, the post office, the website is great. If you go into the post office, they will also give you those supplies. Uh, they they try to the postal workers try to push you to buy the supplies from the side. You don't have to do that. You can get the priority for free.
The next thing on here is the value of bundles. So, as I just mentioned, we use the large priority boxes for bundles, and bundles are so valuable on Poshmark. Now, on every other platform, bundles aren't as useful because they don't have an effective way to do it. On Poshmark, buyers can like a bunch of items and then they can go ahead and add them to the bundle, or you can add it to the bundle for them. And any sale under £5 is going to cost $7.97 to ship. So, for a buyer, that is great because they can get multiple items under that £5 and still only pay that $7.97 that they would have paid even if they just bought a t-shirt out of your store. So that's really, really useful for a buyer. And as sellers, we need to be taking advantage of this as often as we can.
I would say that is the single strongest selling point for using Poshmark. If I am going to be buying something, the shipping for one item is higher than you could get on eBay, depending on how heavy it is. But there's no comparison if you're buying two, three, four, five, six, seven items. If they're all under £5, you can't beat that. There's no eBay has nothing to compare to. Macari, none of the other platforms can even come close to that amount.
Absolutely. The other thing as a seller to keep in mind with bundles is oftentimes, if you're like me, you pay different amounts for your items. So you're going to have different margins on different items. And for example, if you have a bins near you and you buy some bins items, but then maybe you bought an item for a little bit more money and people bundle all of those together, you're going to have more margin to work with to make a good offer on the item. Where maybe if they had only got an item from you that you're selling for 50 that you paid 20 and that margin's really tight, can't really move, but if they then bundled in some bins items, now you can move around. Now you can make a good deal.
It certainly takes the sting out of it if you have a high cost on something that you're not really wanting to move on. And they pick something with a low cost to you. You can kind of justify it to yourself to drop down the lower price item and keep your number for the higher cost.
Yeah, I mean, I've even been known to do a buy one, get one free when it's an item that's been sitting in my closet for 2 years. And I'm like, you know what? If you take it, you can have it.
Well, it's literally just a numbers game. If you buy things at a variable price and a variable cost to you, the odds are if someone picks more than one item, one of those items is not going to be expensive out of your pocket.
Yeah. So take advantage of bundles. Don't sleep on those. Make sure you're taking advantage of them because they're definitely worth it on Poshmark. The next one is how to remove spam/negative comments on here. So a lot of times on Poshmark, if you're brand new, you will have noticed that you get these comments that say something like, I can't see the pictures clearly. Please send me an email with this picture so I can see it and I can purchase your item. These are spam. We don't want to answer them. We don't want them on our thing. They're awful and they happen all the time, especially if you're new. So what you do is you go into the comment, you can click on the little flag button, and it gives you some options, and you have to pick two choices to have it automatically removed from your listing. So I usually click spam and then transaction on Poshmark. In this case, it happens to be true because they asked me to email them and it's also spam. So that works. This will also work if somebody leaves you a comment like, I don't know, somebody's done to me recently where they'll say, hey, by the way, this item is on sale on, name brand here's website for $30 when you have it listed for 75. This is overpricing and extortion. You can have that removed by doing the exact same thing. Click on the little flaggy button, hit spam, transaction off Poshmark, and bye-bye. See you later. We don't like you comment, and you can go. But there are other options.
I mean, that person that is saying it's cheaper somewhere else is not a real person because no one's taking the time unless they're astronomically petty to go on to Poshmark and type that out, I'm just going to buy it somewhere else for less money. I'm lazy. I'm just going to move on and say, I'm suckers are going to pay 75. I'm going to buy it for 30. Having said that, I was till this moment, till we
Till
were
we sat down.
till we were sitting down to record this, I thought the only way to remove was to just relist the item. That's kind of the nuclear option because it will remove everything.
Gets rid of all your likers.
All your likers, all the comments, all everything, and it's basically a fresh item, which it does work.
It does work.
It does work.
But you don't have to do that.
It's not the most efficient.
Well, now you know. Look at that. You learned something in our video.
The next one, which you are still working on.
I'm learning. I'm growing as a person.
You're adapting. This is to not stress out about your reviews or feedback.
And this is specifically for Poshmark for a good reason.
Yes. So if you're coming over from eBay and trying out Poshmark, you're very much aware that feedback on eBay is very important. And Poshmark works very differently. So to my understanding, you can only read the 5-star reviews, and it gives you just one aggregate number of all of your reviews as your rating. So it's out of 5 stars. So if you have a bunch of 5 stars and a couple negative, it's still going to show up as either 4.9 or 5. So you're still going to have a very high rating, even if you get a few negative reviews. So it's important because when everyone starts, they freak out about that, and they think it's a huge world is falling down around them kind of deal. It's not. We have a strategy that we use to improve our review status if it does start to drop, and that is a whole other video. It's kind of a long-winded process, but there are ways that you can do to improve your review status, and it's not worth the time to stress about it.
Yeah, at some point we can do a whole video on how we deal with reviews on Poshmark, how we deal with reviews on eBay, and kind of compare and contrast that. That's a whole other thing. But one of the other things I wanted to mention before we moved off of this is if somebody is smart to Poshmark and they know that you can't read the reviews under 5 stars, so if they leave you a 4-star review, it's hidden, they might leave you a negative 5-star review. So they may say something like, I got the item, it's stained, and I'm really unhappy, right? So when they do that, you think, oh, great, well, it's 5 stars. People can read that. That's awful. Don't worry. Poshmark actually lets you remove that. You don't have to ask anyone to do it. You can just go in right ahead and remove it. You don't have to have that showing anywhere. Now, granted, the ratings you can't adjust ratings. Poshmark does not allow you to say like, hey, I got an unfair 3 stars, so can you remove it? There is no mechanism for that. But you can at least hide those 5-star ratings that were shady 5-star ratings, if you know what I mean. So keep that in mind and make sure that you just don't get upset. It's not worth it. It's not worth the time.
Kind of backfires on the person because if you hide it, it still counts as a 5-star review.
Not everyone knows you can hide it.
Well, hide all of your 5 stars if they're negative, and then profit.
Yeah, exactly. The next thing here is how to comp an item on Poshmark. Now, I'll start by saying that not all of us have been great at comping items when we started.
First off, I get a lot of undue credit for my contributions to your reselling. I sit here and I say a few things, and that's basically it. I've helped you package, but I really
You're great at sourcing.
Sometimes I have my moments, but
comping isn't your thing.
No, it's absolutely not. Well, first off, I'm lazy, and I just find the first number or first item that shows up, and
on
that's
Google.
On Google.
On Google.
Which, don't do that. Don't be like me. That is the wrong way to find the true value of an item.
So when we go out sourcing, oftentimes he'll hand me something and say, I think this is worth something, but can you comp it for me? Because he's still not so confident, even though he knows better now on what to do. So for you, if you're thinking, okay, well, if I can't search it on Google, what am I supposed to do? Well, when you are comping an item on Poshmark, the first thing you want to do is make sure you've removed all filters. Get rid of the size, get rid of everything, remove everything, because Poshmark search is wonky. And I can't explain that to you. It's probably a bigger problem than I can figure out, but it's wonky. So go in there, say it's a Free People floral maxi dress, and you have this specific title. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but specific style name. Go in there and you see them all. Once you have everything in there with all the filters removed, then go to sold. Now, you're not done. You can't just look at sold because Poshmark is wonky. So there's a few things you want to know.
I am actually decent at this part. Once you've actually got the numbers down, which I still don't know how you find all of them, I I'm okay at reading between the lines on what is a live sale versus a bundle, what is money laundering, all of that. Like
So
that's
what are the things that you look for and look past?
so the first one is live sales on Poshmark are going to tremendously decrease the price of the item.
And if you're an
So
eBay seller, that's really similar to an auction item. So if
it's a
you
it's a bit.
are used to skipping past those, skip past the live sales.
So if you see an item that is selling for $5, $6, $4, $10, and then also seeing it selling for 45, 50, 60, whatever dollars, discount those low prices because they're someone having sold it at a live auction and are getting a bad price.
Now, the same is true on the opposite. So, one thing you need to keep in mind on Poshmark is that if you sell an item in a bundle, it is going to show as if the item sold for full price. So, for example, if I had a Free People dress that I listed at $100, but then I had it sold in a bundle and I did a 50% off sale, it's going to say that I sold that dress for $100, even though it was a 50% off sale. So, the thing to keep in mind is that if you're seeing a lot of like overweighted prices as well as underweighted prices, those could be misleading as well. So what you really want to do is find the numbers that are most consistent. So if you're seeing 50, 40, 30, 30, 30, 30, 50, 2, 2, it's going to be 30. The answer is 30.
I mean, conversely, if every single person that has this item sold it in a bundle, everyone wins. So maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe we just need to have a call to action that only send bundle sales because then it sells for full price or looks like it sells for full price and we can trick people into buying it
We can just
for more
bring
money.
up the value of the items just
That
collectively. There we go.
I have solved I have solved selling on Poshmark. It's only taken a few years, but I've done it.
You've done it. I'm so proud of you. The next one I'm actually going to let you talk about because although recently I've done a great job at this, I am notoriously very bad at it. And this one is going to be how to deal with cases on Poshmark.
Yes. So I think this probably has something to do with my number of years in customer service.
And the fact that you're not quite as emotionally invested as I am.
I'm very much more the even keeled of the two of
Who would
us.
have known?
So for dealing with a case or a return on Poshmark, it is the best thing that you can do is to just not take it personally, not stress out about it, and respond accurately to whatever complaint that they have, whether it's the wrong size, which they can't return for that, and they should
And
know that,
remind Poshmark of their policy in the case.
whether it's stretched out or worn or stained or whatever it is, you can point to your listing and say, with screenshots, I'm sorry that you're not happy, but all of those things were noted. Or, I mean, if it's your fault, then you can eat it. But if it's in the listing, point to the listing and point to where they missed the problem. And then majority of the times, if you are calm, cool, collected, and don't overreact, Posh will side with you. We've had a knock on wood. We've had a long string recently of successful cases when we didn't expect to win them. One of them being about smell,
Oh, gosh.
where they said it was stretched out and doesn't fit, and it also smells. And then they kept changing their answer because we responded very clearly and calmly and to all of their points. And Poshmark sided with us, which we were both expecting it to
Yeah,
come back.
we were floored. So the two other things I will add to this is make sure you're addressing Poshmark and not the buyer. Do not address the buyer. Do not, start having this back and forth because it doesn't look professional. And two, it's only going to start getting your emotions involved. So address Poshmark only. And then two, remember that Poshmark is not reviewing your listing during these cases. They're just reading the case. So even if it says in your listing, for example, this item is very worn and has a hole in it, and they're complaining about a hole. Even though your listing says that, you need to screenshot where it says that and bring it into the case and put it there for them to read. Because otherwise, you may lose this case because Poshmark's not reviewing your listing. So make sure you're doing that.
I do have two last things. So the first is to not go with your gut instinct to say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I will be more than happy to take it back." Because if you acknowledge that you're willing to accept the return, you are going to lose the case.
Yep.
That is a even if it is a forfeit or something that is against Posh terms of service, if you acknowledge that you will take back the item, Posh will take the path of least resistance and they will send back the item to make the buyer happy because you've already said it's fine.
It's one of their defined things for accepting returns. It says seller accepts return.
Yeah. The second thing, and this is just the pettiness in me, there is nothing more satisfying than killing someone with kindness and being polite, professional, and responsive, and that just makes people angry. And that oftentimes will get the person to say something that they should not say so that they will then lose the case, and then they will be fuming while you're sitting there chuckling on the couch.
And that's only a useful comment for the times in which you come across cases where the person is just being insufferable and you
Yeah.
just don't want to deal with it. In the times that we have nice people and nice cases, we don't go that route. Just want to make sure that's
Well,
on the record.
it's also just it's only use this if it is a frivolous case, not when you've genuinely made a mistake, which does happen.
Yeah,
We will
we've had that
acknowledge
happen and
it.
we
It
come out and
happens.
say, "Oh, you're right. We totally missed it. We'll accept that return," because that's good customer service. We're only saying these things if it is not your fault and the buyer is opening up a return for no reason or a return for fit, which is against Poshmark's terms of service. The next one here is how to utilize the bulk comment tool. So I'm going to link at the end of this video a video that we shared all of the sales in which we do in a week that helps us make more sales on Poshmark. But this is one of the methods that we use, and it's using this bulk comment tool to add comments to all the bundles of recent likers and let them know that we're willing to take a lower price or let them know of a sale or just let them know that maybe something that they liked has been reduced for closet clear out, whatever the case may be. We can go in there and in bulk, you can go in and leave a standard comment on all of these bundles and try and engage with these buyers and try and, make some conversation with them. It does two things. One, it lets them know that a sale is going on if that's what you're doing, but it also opens up a line of communication where maybe they had a question, but they felt a little bit weird asking or they didn't even know where to ask. And now you've opened up this conversation where they can just reply to you and they can say, "Oh, hey, actually, I did really want that item, but I was wondering if you could tell me if there's pockets on this or some question that they may have had lingering," which has happened a lot. A lot of times that I do this, I get so many comments and I'm like, "Oh, why did I do this? Now I have to pull out all these items." But it's great
Yeah.
and it makes a lot more sales.
I think some people are hesitant to do this because they don't want to
Spam.
be spammy or pushy and try to scare the person off. And you will have a few of those people. You will scare off someone that may have bought the item. I would argue that they probably weren't serious about buying it in the first place. Uh, but more importantly, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. You're only going to make extra sales if you ask for extra sale. If you reach out to the person, you're more likely to make that transaction happen. There's a reason that brands will ask for your email and ask for your phone number and ask all of these questions so that they can send you promotional material. It works. They wouldn't spend the time and effort to do it if it did not work and did not make them money. The same can be true for your closet.
Yeah, I take advantage of the tools that are given to you and don't feel bad marketing yourself. That's what you do in sales. So get used to it. We're salespeople.
This next one is more about just trial and error on fixing those items that have issues,
Or just making the
or just
item the most presentable that it can
or
be for the
or
buyer.
or making it as attractive an item as possible. That is also true. So there are certain tricks, tools, hacks, and things that you can pick up along the way, which is not one video. That's like 70 billion video. Like there's so many different things that you can do.
But distill this down.
To distill this down, there are a few tools that are irreplaceable. First, I would say it would probably be a sweater shaver. A sweater shaver will allow you to take pilled or slightly used items and make them basically new again. We find that our thrift stores will lower the price on these items quite a bit so that with a few minutes worth of effort, we can recoup that money and it's a no-brainer.
I mean, plus, if your husband, like mine, is a sweater shaver in the family, it can be really fun to find that
Hold on.
item.
Stop. Don't you even pretend like I'm not the one that does all of the rehabbing of the items.
Well, no, that wasn't my point.
Hold on.
What I was going to say is bringing home that really pilled item that he's going to go, "Oh my God, please. No, I don't want to do that." There is joy in that, my friends. There is joy. So, absolutely convince your husband that sweater shaping is no big deal. It only takes a few minutes. And then find the pilliest sweater that you can make money on, of course. to bring home to him. It's so much fun,
This leads me into the next nightmare thing, which is you need a lint roller, you
especially if you have dogs.
especially if you have dog or just if you store them in buckets with other fuzzy items,
Oh, yeah,
you will
guilty.
need yes, I'm aware. You will need a lint roller, and we go through those so often to make sure that the item is cleaned and ready to go out to the buyer. Uh, the next couple are just in no particular order. Doc Martens Wonder Bomb is great for any kind of leather, shoes, handbags, etc. I've used that on high-end handbags to make the corners look nicer. Shoes, you can increase the dollar amount considerably if you take a little bit of time. Also, on that, if they're black or brown, you can use a little bit of shoe dye to cover up any flaws and make them look basically new again. The last item, and this is the probably the most important item. I would buy this item if it was made out of solid gold. I would buy platinum even. I would spend the money to buy a snag nabbit. A snag nabbit is amazing. And you will buy multiple of them because you will lose them because
They're
there's a lot.
so small.
It's basically a needle with a textured end. Use it to pull your snags into the inside of the sweater or item so that you don't have to cut them off and create a hole. You can pull the loose threads, you can pull snags onto the inside to make the item look new.
It's a wonderful tool and it's super cheap. So absolutely recommend it and make sure you get these tools. There's so many more tools that we use in our business, but that would take the rest of our lives. This is already a
Yeah.
very long video, but hopefully those are helpful for you. And finally, the last thing that I wish I knew about before I started reselling, which I kind of knew, I didn't know enough though, would
Yes.
be the community. So I think we've shared our story of how we got into reselling on this channel before, but just as a quick overview, I started in the couponing community, met some people, and I heard about the Poshmark community. I didn't know that there was a plethora of information out there. There were YouTube videos, there are Instagram videos, there are TikTok videos, there are all these things where you can learn brands, you can learn different selling tactics, you can learn about the new things that are going on in the community. You can learn so many things, and there's so many people that have expertise that you can't possibly know everything. One of my best reselling friends is really great at DVDs and other electronic devices, and I go to them for basically anything eBay related in general. I have contacts for vintage items. I have people that are really skilled at Lululemon who actually worked at the Lululemon store, people that are skilled at Patagonia. The more contacts you make, the more expertise you are going to grow by knowing people, because I don't know if you know, but you can't know everything. You can't hold all that information in
I
your head.
I think it's just so important. There's no point in trying to reinvent the wheel. Somebody has already figured out what you're looking for, and in my experience, I'm not really involved, but the community has been so helpful to my wife about answering those questions and just saving so much time. I would say that
And saving money.
saving so much money. I think the research aspect of it on the community side is just so valuable. You could probably make 4 or 5 times the amount of money that you would starting out from scratch if you spend the time researching and learning about the community in advance. I think it just allows you to hit the ground running. It is probably the single most important thing a reseller can do is expand their knowledge base, expand and use the experience of other people. The community almost overwhelmingly. There are some bad apples, but almost everyone is willing to help, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, wherever. It is just a great community to be a part of.
I absolutely agree. And so, what I'm going to ask of all of you, since you are the community, is leave down below what you're an expert at. Let us all connect and learn from each other. So, if you are an expert at, I don't know, DVDs or sporting equipment or Pyrex or whatever it is, leave that in the comments and let's connect with each other. If you're looking for an expert, maybe you'll find them right here in the comments of this video.
Ramen handbags, right there.
Yeah,
That's your first one.
that's
Sheen
my expertise.
or St. John's. She's got both of those covered.
Yeah. So definitely do that. And as we said, if you are interested in knowing what sales that we do on Poshmark and how we run them and how often we run them, check the video right here on the screen so you can see what we do.